Howdy, friends. Laura Copley here, editor of The Banner. I am so happy that you have joined our magazine's podcast. The pilot season revolves around the decisions, people, and impact of Synod 2026. Just like our Banner commentary column, the views you hear may not necessarily reflect the views of the Banner or the CRC Church, and that's okay. Our goal is to explore. A big thanks to Pastor Derek and Sarah. They recorded all episodes in the hours directly following Synod, catching folks just before they headed home. These conversations are fresh, candid, and really interesting. But enough for me. Let's get to it.
You mentioned the Latino pastors and the Latino brothers and sisters in the congregation. As you've been serving within the CRC, have you become familiar with some of these groups like the Consejo Latino, which would be the Latin Council, or the Navajo, or the Korean Pastors Ministerial Association? Are you familiar with any of those groups?
I'm familiar. I know about them, but I was never part of any discussion or never attended any of these meetings. I think there's a cultural factor for that. I'm not sure if you look at the map of South America. You have the Hispanic colonized countries on the border west of the South America, and you have the continent called Brazil on the east side. Brazil speaks a different language. You speak Portuguese, and that's one of the things that kind of frustrates me when I have conversations with some folks here in the CRC. Oh, yeah, you speak Spanish. Actually, no. I do speak because I learned myself, but that's not our native language. I have that conversation so many times. Oh, you're in the Consejo Latino because the assumption is, the Brazilians are Hispanic. Actually, we're not. We're Latino, but not Hispanic.
Interesting.
Consejo Latino is Latino-Hispanic movement. And historically speaking, these two groups are very friendly to each other. We share the hospitality background. We share the joy. We share our irreverence. If there's a good sense in that. Yeah. Actually, in my culture, to be irreverent is a positive trait. That was the first thing I realized at first, Byron, that's not a positive trait. That was one of the background shocks that I had. Oh, being irreverent is not good. Actually, it's being formal, serious. Well, I'm learning that. I'm not sure I got there yet, but I'm learning. So Brazilians are very irreverent in nature. They're very social friendly. They smile a lot, and that's who we are. And our Hispanic colleagues from the West or from the North, they are the same. We just have this language barrier. But I would say I would love to sit down with these brothers and sisters and have fellowship. I think our culture still has some distinctive items that differentiate us. It's like the Germans and the Dutch, for instance.
Yeah.
Well, you're very close to each other geographically. You have a similar language.
The language is very similar.
But you actually have some rivalries of the past. We had our wars too. And so there's some cultural factors. I would say it would be more fitting if there's a Brazilian council within the CRC instead of just joining one that is Hispanic and Latino. I think there's a cultural factor there. But I love my brothers from the Consejo Latino. I'd like to say we played together at the worship service. We have a lot of things in common. It's a different culture. It's not my culture.
Certainly.
I think they also have your love of church planting.
They do.
Yeah.
But I think that irreverence that you mentioned is a thing. And I think it's a thing within the system, within the culture that the system is trying to figure out. Because Brazilian, Latino pastors at Synod are the ones who are willing to break the unwritten synodical rules about. And
I'm sorry if I did that at the Synod. I think I might.
I don't mean
done
that.
It a few times.
I don't mean that as a criticism. I just think that there are these unwritten rules of the way that you comport yourselves, wherein reverence and sort of library talk, the way that you whisper in a library, is sort of the way that we're supposed to do business, and that's not the way. It doesn't strike me to be the way of the Latino Hispanic background. And I mean, how do you perceive that within the synodical interaction or classical interaction? Are there ways that the Christian Reformed Church can learn from the positive irreverence of the cultures that we've just been talking about?
I think besides the food and besides the joy and the relationships, I think just be patient with us. We're learning. Imagine for us, trying to put yourselves in our shoes. For us, it's a transcultural mission. It's not like being a pastor in an American context or North American context. I get this question from my Brazilian countrymen all the time. How are you doing ministry in that context? It's like a missionary context for me. I have to learn their language. I have to learn their culture. I had to know how to address the idols of that culture and how to address my own idols in my own culture, and understand that in some regards they are doing a better job than I was doing in my own context. So it's a lot of work and sometimes overwhelming. I would say for the CRC, since we're centered on the gospel, is the very gospel hospitality that would enable these different groups to come alongside. So, and there's some things, let me give you one example. I'm good friends, I was good friends with Tim Keller. My first trip to U.S. was to Redeemer Presbyterian Church. And I remember watching Tim Keller in Chicago giving us a great lecture on how to reach the West back. And as soon as he hit the 30-minute or 35-minute, he said, I need to stop because I hit my time and I just can't go forward. And the audience was bleeding. I mean, we drove from 1,000 miles to see the guy say, no, I can't speak 5 more minutes because, you know what? Time, clock hits. In our country, this won't be a factor at all, and just keep going. We're not very bound by these kinds of rules or clock slaves, that kind of stuff. I think this is one of my problems with my congregation, like the clock. I mean, in Brazil, an average sermon lasts an hour, 50 minutes.
You could go to Mark Dever's church.
Yeah, there's some guys, but in my church, if I cross the 30 minutes, I see like eyes rolling. And so this
People
is one
checking
of
watches.
Yeah, and I think for me, it's a good missionary awareness. I'm dealing with this context, not in my context, so I cannot expect a response from them that's not embedded in their culture. I would say this: we have to preserve the boundaries, preserve the limits, as long as they are, I would say, rooted in our common shared value, which is the gospel. So I think the clock, the formality, punctuality, it's a great thing. And actually, that's one thing I'm trying to learn, and I'm getting better at. But I would say this is one of the dynamics at Synod that I would say is typical of Latino, typical of Brazilian, or someone from another context. We don't know the unwritten rules until someone tells us. So I appreciate the clarity when a fellow staff member from my church tells me, hey, you use that term, but that's not really the case. I mean, use something else. Let me give you one example. We in Brazil have the largest population of Japanese outside of Japan.
Oh,
Did not know that.
interesting.
So
Yeah.
fellow elders in my local congregation were Japanese. I grew up with Japanese all around me. And we joke with them a lot, and they joke with us. These two cultures, they're very radically different.
Yeah.
But they picked our country to live after the war.
Okay.
So we, for instance, I'm sorry for saying that, it's very cultural offensive, but we like to joke them like doing this. Oh, you're Japanese. And I used an illustration in my church by doing that. Some folks were really terrified that I did it. But something that in my culture and the Japanese around us is totally normal. So I would say, be patient with us. We're trying to learn. But at the same time, don't take us too serious, because we're not very serious in that.
Irreverence.
That's
Positive
part of our
irreverence.
Yeah, that's part of our nature. We're more irreverent in nature. And that could be pro and con, but I would say in some regards, it's for us in a missional context, I think it's a great benefit. Because for us to initiate a conversation with a stranger, it's not hard at all.
Yeah.
But for a church setting, in a formal worship service, in a synodical, that could be a problem.
Yeah.
And I understand that. And we ask forgiveness for that if we incurred into that problem. But I think in terms of mission, that's a great plus.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it seems to me there's wisdom there for addressing all cultures, right? Whenever you're welcoming somebody into your church or into your classes or into your denomination, the grace to have a lot of patience, to have a good sense of humor about whatever it's going to be, because of course, there's going to be ways that you rub up against each other weird, right? Or offensively even, and to have the grace for somebody else and to have a lot of laughter is probably the right answer. I think that's great. I also think the CRC is more diverse than those of us in it sometimes realize.
Yeah. What were the numbers that were shared at Synod? Is it 25,
I-
30% of
it
the
was
denomination is
higher than I realized.
non-Anglo congregations.
Yeah.
Yes. And I think one of the reasons why is like the immigration to America and North America has been huge, but also the fact that most CRCs were for so long growing only in a covenant oriented direction. And now I hope this is changing. I hope it's a more missionary encounter with the secular culture and not only raising your kids to be faithful Christians. This is awesome. And this is one of the things, back to your question at the beginning, what attracted me to the Christian Reformed Church? Christian education.
Interesting.
Christian education is something that is so well put together by the Dutch Reformed tradition. That's something we lack. We're in our South Hemisphere, we're good at missionary encounter with the culture, but we didn't develop as rigorous, beautiful systems to educate our children. So all our textbooks are our strategies. We now have to learn how to do it. It's not very common. In my city, in Byron Center, we have Christian schools all over the place. And I see how powerful it is to raise the next generation of Christians. But I don't see that this is a necessity to stay in that strategy alone. Now we have to learn how to become more missional. That's why there's so much conversation going on this issue. But that's definitely one thing that I love about our common heritage is the systems, heritage, history of how well we educated the next generation in the gospel-centered framework.